The gentleman from California.
You myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized for such time as he may consume.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I must say that I truly admire the courage of my friends on the other side of the aisle. In the middle of the worst economic downturn that any of us can remember, our parents told us about the Depression, an unprecedented and accelerating job loss all across the American economy in every sector. Our friends on the other side of the aisle ask us just for one last time to do what they've been doing the last 8 years, to just one more time give the tax cuts to the richest people in the country, to just one more time dive into the tank on fiscal irresponsibility. They inherited $5 trillion surplus, and they squandered it to an $8 trillion deficit. They created the slowest job creation since World War II, the slowest job creation since World War II in a recovery. They held middle-income wages stagnant. In fact, many families lost ground. The wealthy did their best. They stood by while banks created liar loans, while banks created no-doc loans, while people on Wall Street played fast and easy with hard-working Americans' money in their pension plans. And what do we get for their 8 years? We see people now getting their returns on their pensions, their 401k plans, 30, 40, 50% of their assets are gone. And for those who are over 55, living in panic about how will they have a retirement. And yet they stand here day after day and say, just let us have more of what we were doing in the past. You know, when that helicopter took off outside here in this plaza, millions of Americans gave that president a wave goodbye. Because in the middle of this historic downturn, millions and millions of Americans made a decision to go in another direction. Because what you were doing hadn't worked for them or for their families. Hadn't worked for them or their families, because that was your policy, Mr. Speaker. That was their policy, crude and rude with respect to working Americans in this country and their families. So what do we have now? We have an incredible consensus of economists who are on the left, who are on the right, who advised Republican candidates in the past, Ronald Reagan, John McCain. And they have said, you have got to put together a recovery act where the government spends this money on projects to put people back to work to create jobs. It will not stop unemployment, but it will help. It will help. And that's what we're doing here. And that's what we're doing here. They also said from the right and the left, as they told us that the American economy is shutting down while you're asking to do more of the same, they said, don't forget education. We cannot lose. We cannot have young people lose a year or 2 years of education because of an economic downturn. You must support education at the local level. Why? Because the states and local governments are hemorrhaging the loss of revenues. Because people can't afford to buy a car, they're not buying a car. Because home prices values are dropping so fast that they're going in and getting their property taxes reestablished because of the loss of value in their homes, and that's costing local government and school districts money from sales tax and property tax. So we're trying to make sure that those students don't lose that educational opportunity. We see the number of students who are now starting to forego college, who are in the middle of their college education because of cost. Yes, we're going to increase the Pell Grant so they can stay. We're going to give their parents an income tax credit so they can stay in school. We're going to give them work opportunities on campus so they can stay in school. Because that's what the economists, that's what the venture capitalists said, that's what the captains of industry said needs to be done. Don't lose that, because when this economy reemerges, we need those people to be competitive in the rest of the world. Yes, we're going to help school districts in school construction, so people can go, young students can go to school in a cleaner, better environment, so they'll be connected to the latest technology, so they'll have the educational opportunities, and it will be a safe school, it'll be a modern school. Yes, we're going to help them out do that, because they don't have the ability to do that because your economic policies froze municipal bonds and school bonds where people voted to impose taxes on themselves to improve their schools, to improve their cities. But the credit markets are seized. So we're trying to help them out for the time being until those markets unfreeze. And yes, $300 billion was given to the Bush administration and Secretary Paulson. And so far it appears that it was given without conditions in terms of any effort by the big banks to unfreeze the credit markets, to lend to small businesses, to lend to families in need. Yes, we're changing policy, and we're doing it at the direction of the American people, because the policy you gave them for 8 years was a disaster for them, their families, their retirements, their wages, their health care. They want to go in a different direction, and we will take them in a different direction. We'll take them to job creation. We'll take them to a better education, and hopefully we'll take them to a stronger economy on the advice, with all due respect, of not the other side of the aisle, but of economists from the left to the right, of impeccable credentials, who've said the only question about this package really is it large enough?